The beginning of any journey starts with a first step. Sometimes it's tentative, the hesitation and reservation of those who learned caution, who know to look down and at their surroundings, who know that the path is ahead of them and are scared for what may happen along the way. Sometimes it's calculated. The traveler has mapped out their entire adventure before they even opened the door, and took their time and informed themselves, and don't fear what's ahead, because they've already accounted for it. Nothing will distract them, and they will arrive at their destination exactly as planned, exactly on time. But for some, the journey begins with a leap of faith. There is no plan, no intent, no fear. You open the door and stroll out into the unknown, because, as they say, sometimes it's not the destination, but the adventures you have along the way that are the most important. Enter the Fool. The Fool begins the Major Arcana of the Tarot deck, and they also end the Major Arcana. They are the Fool, forever on a journey where they learn and grow, and cycle around back to where they started from, simultaneously wiser and more simple for the journeys they have traveled. The Fool is numbered 0, because they belong at both ends of the cycle that the Major Arcana represents. They are a blank slate, and they have transcended for all that they have learned. And what better way to start my own journey than with the card that literally represents taking that first step, the leap over the edge into the unknown. Today, on Symbolism and Lore, I'd like to take some time to explain the significance of the Fool. First, let's do a little Tarot 101, for anyone who knows next to nothing about tarot, just to make sure we're basically on the same page here. The tarot deck is a deck of 78 cards in total, 22 cards in what's called the Major Arcana, and 56 cards that comprise the Minor Arcana. The Minor Arcana resembles your typical player deck, with 4 suits split between a set numbered 1 through 10, and the face cards or court cards. Though with the Minor Arcana, there's an additional court card compared with the playing deck. While playing deck has a Jack, Queen, and King, the Minor Arcana has Page, Knight, Queen, and King, with the Page being comparable to Jack. The 4 suits of the Minor Arcana actually directly translate to a playing card deck. Clubs, spades, diamonds, and hearts in a playing deck translate directly to wands, swords, pentacles or coins, and cups in the tarot's Minor Arcana. The reason that there are 2 variations for the diamonds suit is because there are some tarot decks that use pentacles and others that use coins, but they both symbolize the same suit and are represented by the same element. Which brings me to another aspect of the Minor Arcana. Each suit also represents one of the 4 familiar elements. Wands represent fire, swords represent air, cups, probably pretty obviously, represent water, and pentacles, or coins, represent earth. These elements in themselves are connected with aspects of the world at large, something which I will cover at greater length another time. But these elements are essential in interpreting these cards whenever they appear in a reading. The elements also play into the Major Arcana, but here is where we shift away from what we see in a player deck. These are the cards that more stereotypically show up in Hollywood tarot, like Death, or the Devil, or the Hanged Man, which probably don't mean what you think they mean. These too are numbered, 0 through 21. These cards often represent major events in someone's life journey, or powerful energies surrounding someone at the time of a reading. Something important to keep in mind with the tarot is that each card does not represent a literal event or person. You can't draw the 2 of Hearts and say, "Ah, your legs are going to be hairy on the 14th of this month." Or, well, I mean, you can, but that's not what the purpose of the cards is. Each card represents an energy that is up to the reader to interpret, especially in conjunction with other cards in the layout of the reading. Tarot cards are a divination tool, a way of perhaps literally laying your cards on the table and analyzing your position. I've always loved reading into symbols and imagery that represents a bigger picture once you start really thinking about it. I mean, hence this series, after all. And the tarot is a good place to start when talking about how we have many cognitive associations with certain archetypes that we may not even be fully conscious of. The entire deck is a set of symbols open to interpretation. And so here we are, hopefully with a better understanding of how the tarot works, and better equipped to begin breaking down the Fool and their significance, both to the deck and in our wider culture. Let's take a look at the card. There are many different forms that the Fool can take, but there are a handful of elements that are present in every iteration. The Fool themselves is often dressed in garish, gaudy, or loose-fitting clothing, and carries with them an air of lackadaisical energy. They pay no heed to their surroundings. They are often accompanied by a dog, who bounds happily alongside the Fool. It's often sunny, and the world around the Fool is vivid. They often carry a walking stick of some kind, indicating the adventure they are traveling on. They often carry white flowers. And the Fool is most often depicted as stepping off a cliff with absolutely no thought paid to the danger they're in. There are, of course, variations. Perhaps instead of a cliff, the Fool is tilted to walk off a building, or instead of a flower, they are juggling various items. But the elements chosen come down to the preference of the artist for a deck, and ultimately come back to the same meaning. The Fool is innocent. They don't have a care in the world. Life is good. Life is free. The air is clean, the sun is up, the earth is fertile, and they are surrounded by friends of all kinds. Nothing could make life better. The white flower in itself accentuates the innocence and the purity of the Fool. The unusual or flowing clothing connects with freedom both of choice and of movement. The Fool cannot be constrained by their clothing, nor will social norms stop them from wearing what pleases them. The Fool is not alone. The dog, their companion, keeps step with them everywhere they go, and there is an understanding that where the Fool goes, they are also accompanied by some invisible divine force that protects them from harm. The sun is often connected with a positive divine presence. But, even more simply than that, the Fool is someone who has never seen harm nor consequences for their brazenness. They have been protected, shielded, and so they gallivant about the world and step right off of cliffs because they believe they will be fine no matter what they do. You don't have to dig too far to see examples of the Fool in media. An example just about anyone would recognize would be Homer Simpson, a character who has literally made a living by failing his way into success. He rarely thinks anything through, responds almost immediately to whatever whim seizes him in the moment, and rarely sees any long-term consequences for his actions. He is simple, childlike, naive. While he's been recently depicted as a lot more mean-spirited and cruel in recent seasons, the core of his character has been that he loves the people in his life, and is always surrounded by friends and family. He trusts that things will always work out in the end. To poke around in a different genre, another Fool archetype character pops up in My Little Pony, Pinkie Pie. While she can be clever and insightful, and often breaks the fourth wall, she is a largely carefree pony who literally lives life party to party. She celebrates the world just for existing, charges into situations while relying almost purely on her intuition, and one of her central defining features is how much her friends mean to her. Her sunny disposition and optimism help her find the positive in anything, even really, 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 really bad situations, like really bad. And she will do everything in her power to bring a smile to everyone else around her. She loves unconditionally, and while she has her moments where she doubts her place with others, she trusts that things will still work out for the better. You need more examples? Well, how about Sailor Moon from, Sailor Moon? This may not be quite as recognizable as some others on the list, but she fits the archetype perfectly. In her daily life, she is silly and over the top. She frequently is late for school or does poorly on her assignments because she doesn't see the importance of homework, runs headlong into new situations, especially if there's food involved, and will often make snap decisions following her heart. She is often guilty of succumbing to her fears by collapsing, wailing, and crying, Confronted by the possibility of real danger, she falls back on someone else coming to her rescue, often Tuxedo Mask or the other Sailor Scouts. And she does seem to have someone, or something, always looking out for her. I think one of the most quintessential examples of the fool archetype is the titular character from Steven Universe. Steven starts off the series as ignorant as the audience is about what the bigger picture is. He has been sheltered and protected his entire life, told very little about where he or the other crystal gems come from, and is frequently sidetracked by distractions, including even breaking into song. It's through Steven that we experience the journey of the series. Through his eyes, we learn the complicated and morally gray history of the crystal gems, an ancient war that literally shattered so many lives, and the dark facets of even his own past. We start off seeing it all as a grand adventure, just as he does. A Monster of the Week serial episodic adventure where no one's really in any danger because the gems are powerful and can never do wrong. And then, just as the Fool travels through the events depicted in the other Major Arcana cards, Steven experiences new understanding of the world. He learns that he's not always safe, or that he barely makes it out alive sometimes. He learns that friends can sometimes hurt you, even if they don't mean to. He learns the consequences of his actions. We travel his journey with him, all the way through to the end of the 5th season, which is all that has released at time of recording. He accepts the heartbreaking truth, and without spoiling too much here, learns to let go of his pain and self-doubt, and returning to where he started, perhaps a little wiser, but freed from the baggage that he picked up along the way. He becomes a new person, and that person is the same person we've known all along. Hence, the Fool's journey begins again. So, what does this all mean when it comes to the Fool in a tarot reading? Well, as I said earlier, a lot of the meaning of a card in any reading depends on both its position in a layout and what other cards are present, influencing the energy of the Fool. But there are some common traits that persist no matter where the Fool appears. Leap of faith. The Fool is embarking on an adventure, making a decision based on their intuition or belief that everything is going to work out no matter what. Sometimes this is totally blind. Sometimes it's calculated. Sometimes the object of the reading might need to take a leap of faith to learn to trust in the energies around them to carry them through to the desired outcome. Innocence/naivete. The Fool knows little, carries little with them. They are not educated and often see no need for it. They are happy in their ignorance, because ignorance is bliss. Wandering blindly brings them such new joys because everything is new and full of hidden delights. The Fool finds the good in everything. They are the ones who stop to smell the roses, because for them, the smell is brand new. They don't understand the world, but are fully committed to experiencing it. Skirting danger. Even as there are reasons to believe that everything will turn out okay, there's only so many times you can walk off a cliff before you eventually fall and break a limb. There are dark things out in the world, and eventually the sun will go down. The Fool could very well be on the edge of learning a very dangerous lesson, or a crushing collapse. Because they don't look for the danger, they are the most susceptible to getting hit by it. Hard. The Fool is important. It's through their eyes that we are able to look at the world with fresh perspective. We all need to walk a mile in the Fool's shoes, even just once, to remember how bright and vivid the world truly is. We need to love unconditionally, to feel safe and protected, to feel companionship even when we make bad decisions. The Fool is traveling the road of life, and in their wake, they stir the world around them. Before I close out today, I want to thank my patrons over on Patreon for their support. Their names should be on screen right about now, and I really can't thank you guys enough. I can make the content that I love because of you, and that means so much. If you're interested in helping out, even just for $1 a month, you'll make it into the credits and get early access to every video that goes up on my channel. You can find the link either directly at the end of the video or in the description of the video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you found this video both interesting and informative. Next time, we're going to tackle another card in the tarot deck, perhaps one of the most famous of all.
Death, 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 death.
Oh dear.